A quick hello from everybody who's watching the recording right now. We just did a brief welcome and we're now starting with the actual meeting, and we will open with a Mentimeter. And I would now start with the first question, and don't worry, you can still join. What is your role during the conference? Are you a youth delegate or a young delegate? Or maybe you are a ministerial delegate from a youth administration or an INGYO representative, who are the international youth organizations who are joining us as experts in their field. Maybe you're a guest or you don't know yet what your role is. And maybe you are one of the organizers, for instance, one of the facilitators, researchers, or harvesters. And if you don't know what's happening, this is not an online yoga class or anything similar. We are preparing for the EU Youth Conference. Hopefully you know your role, but latest at the end of the meeting, the role should be pretty clear for everybody. And we can already see that most young people in the room are actually youth delegates. And we do also have some ministerial delegates, as well as some INGYO representatives and 2 guests as well. Maybe the guests can share in the chat, if you like, your role during the conference, why you are joining, or with what perspective you are joining. Feel free to post that in the chat. Youth delegates are still leading. Let me take you to the next question. Which country or organization are you representing? I'm curious to see who the biggest delegation is in the room.
Germany.
Germany is coming big. We also have Belgium, who are part of the trio presidency right now. I see Ireland, Estonia, Latvia, of course, Spain as the hosts of this conference. We also have some organizations like ESN. What else do I see? Rural Youth Europe, ATD Fourth World. We have also Hungary, the Czech Republic, and Bulgaria as pretty big delegations. And who are the small delegations for now, at least in this meeting? Austria, Denmark. Who else? More organizations, Eurodesk, Bosnia and Herzegovina. Okay, but I see the big winner of this meeting is probably Belgium for now. I also would like to ask you, besides, of course, the exciting discussions we will be having during the conference, I know that's what you're looking forward the most because this is the focus of the conference. What else are you looking forward in Alicante? Is it maybe the good and sunny weather, or are you looking forward to networking, meeting old friends, maybe new people to work together on youth policy? Do you enjoy Spanish food? To be honest, I know nothing more about Spanish food than paella, but maybe you know more and are already looking forward to it. Or do you want to spend the breaks at the beach? And if you haven't seen it yet, our hotel is right next to the ocean in front of the beach. So it's just a couple of steps from the plenary to the beach. Okay, but I can see most of you are already perfect delegates. You are looking forward to the networking, of course. And then you're pretty torn between breaks at the beach, good weather, and Spanish food. I can't guarantee anything, but I'm pretty confident that we will have a little bit of everything. So hopefully a lot to enjoy for you. Almost final question. It's a quiz question, actually. So I'm beginning to test you. And don't worry if you don't have the right answers yet. We will provide some information. But what year was the first EU Youth Dialogue cycle kicked off? Was it 2002, 2010, 2013, or 17? I know, Xavi, there are some experts in the room who are pretty certain. Maybe you can tell us in a minute what the right answer is to this question. Just going to give you a couple more seconds. Okay. Pretty torn between 2010 and 2013. Xavi, what would be your answer to that question?
It's 2010, and it was the first presidency with Spanish presidency, first cycle of EU Youth Dialogue.
And you're absolutely right. And not the majority, but many people were also right. 2010 was the first cycle. One cycle is always 1.5 years long, not just 1 year. And that's why 2010 is the right answer. We will also talk more about the previous cycles, which we already had during the conference, because this is going to be an anniversary cycle. We're in the 10th cycle, as Xabi just said, it's the same trio presidency as the ones who hosted the first EU Youth Dialogue cycle. My next question is, what's the motto of the cycle? Is it power to all youth, nothing without youth, from youth goals to youth actions, we need youth, or celebrating EU Youth Dialogue, or celebrating youth? Okay, a lot of different opinions. All right. The big winner is we need youth. And whoops. You're absolutely correct. The current motto is we need youth. I think it was not in your practical information note, or at least not very prominently. So it's great if you already know what the motto is. Just a small hint why maybe so many people thought it's from youth goals to youth actions. That's actually one of the titles from the previous cycles. So maybe you've heard that as well. But right now, for this year, it's we need youth. Okay. Now, having said that, we now would like to get started with the preparatory meeting. And let me start with a very brief input on what the EU Youth Dialogue is. This is a new cycle, and that means that maybe some of you are also pretty new to the EU Youth Dialogue. And the EU Youth Dialogue is one of the largest youth participation mechanisms in Europe and actually also worldwide. It is quite tightly connected to the EU Youth Strategy, which is regularly updated. And the last time a new EU Youth Strategy was launched was actually in 2019 with the motto, engage, connect, and empower. And that's also the methodology we really want to build on during this conference and also the next conference, to engage, to connect you, and to empower you. The goal of the EU Youth Strategy is to create a framework for EU youth policy cooperations. And to have the EU Youth Dialogue is one way to actually bring in the voices of and perspectives of young people into that discussion and to contribute to the implementation of the EU Youth Strategy. Also, there are 11 EU youth goals, which hopefully most of you have already seen and maybe even worked with. They were formulated by more than 50,000 young people as part of one EU Youth Dialogue cycle back in 2017. For this cycle, we are going to focus on youth goal number 3 on inclusive societies. I will talk more about that in just a second. And just to stress again, the idea also of the EU Youth Dialogue is not just to bring together different stakeholders in the youth policy field, but to also through dialogue, generate new ideas and possible solutions to difficulties, barriers, or needs young people have and face in their life. So we're all working on improving the future and the life of young people in Europe. Now more about the 10th cycle. The 10th cycle started in July 2023 with the motto, we need youth. And this is going to be the presidency by Spain, Belgium, and Hungary, which also means we will have 3 conferences in this cycle, one in Alicante, the second one in Belgium in the beginning of the year, and the last one in Hungary in summer next year. And every cycle is split into 2 phases. One is the consultation phase, where young people are being consulted and can provide their experience and their perspectives on several questions the researchers created to create a good foundation of knowledge basically on the topic in focus, which is inclusive society for this cycle. And in the implementation phase, during the dialogues, young people and decision makers generate ideas and practices that can be implemented to actually create solutions for the problems that were identified in the consultation phase. And the conference is going to be one part of that consultation. So we are going to ask you similar questions than we will ask young people all over the country. Just to briefly summarize, what are the objectives of the conference? I already said we want to identify inclusion barriers, but also support mechanisms and maybe even exchange best practices from the youth field. We also want to feed into the cycle consultation, which will be the main job of Andras and Dan, the researchers for the cycle, who will, together with the team of harvesters, listen very closely to what you are discussing and create a great summary of the conference, and then later on feed that into the consultation and analyze all responses from all various levels. We will also start the dialogue with decision makers. As you've probably seen in the agenda, we will have a dialogue moment with the DG Youth, which we will also talk about in a minute. And we will also exchange with inclusion experts. If you've been to a previous conference, this time we are actually doing something slightly different. We will not be exchanging with policymakers from various levels, from local level, national level, or European level, but we actually invited experts and organizations on the field of inclusion who can bring in their perspective and also advise the delegates of the conference on their work on the topic of inclusive societies. And last but not least, of course, we want to also celebrate that this is an anniversary and celebrate the successes of the previous cycles, but of course also think about feedback, reflect a bit and think about how we can improve the EU Youth Dialogue further. What will be your roles during the conference? I will keep that pretty short because you also do have so many more information, much more information on that in your practical information note, which you should have already received a couple of weeks ago. The youth delegates, they basically present the views of concerns from young people from their specific country, together with the ministerial delegates, who on the other hand, from their countries represent the youth administrations. And of course, they also have a professional expertise in the field and can advise you in the process. We also have international non-governmental youth organizations who also represent young people, but they have rather a European perspective to the topic, because of course their members and their organizations are from many different countries and also quite diverse. Also, we have policymakers and the experts, so the people who you will be meeting in one of your working group sessions, and they will provide feedback to the outcomes you will create during the conference. And last but not least, we have the Directors General on or of youth, and they are decision makers, experts in the youth policy field, and they will get into dialogue with you, and they are the people who can really also contribute to establishing the ideas and solutions that you maybe will be discussing during the conference. So they are a great and important sparring partner. And this slide, and I will not read out all 4 questions, but this slide is important for you because this is actually your homework in terms of preparation. The 4 questions you see here, they are the basis of the consultation phase, and they are the 4 questions we will be focusing on during the discussions at the conference. So I want to encourage you to take a screenshot or a picture of these questions and to actually take these questions to your workplace if you're a ministerial delegate, or to your national working group if you're a youth delegate, or whatever field you are coming from, to discuss these questions with colleagues, with people who are experts in the field, to really also come to the conference with already some ideas and perspectives you want to bring into the dialogue. We will be discussing barriers, current support mechanisms, changes that are needed, and also the role of the youth field, all regarding the question of how can we improve inclusive societies in Europe and support young people, especially with fewer opportunities. So again, I encourage you now to take a picture or to look in your practical information note where you can find that information. Now I will hand over to my colleague Kova, who will guide you through the agenda of the conference, so you have a better picture and clearer picture of what's actually going to happen.
So I will share my screen again. Hopefully you will see it properly this time. Here you can see a brief summary of what you have received already by email, but basically we expect participants to arrive on Sunday, and then you will have time to get to know each other in some informal activities and the cocktail dinner and the presentation of the European Union Intellectual Property Office. That will be kind of informal for us to get to know each other. And then the conference opening sessions will be on Monday morning, together with some panels that will introduce the topic of inclusion, that, as we know, is the central topic of the conference. And then we will start with the working group sessions that we will explain later on. And then again, in the evening, we'll have some informal activities for you to get to know each other as well. Then on Tuesday, we will have working group sessions in the morning and in the afternoon. And then also in the afternoon, we will have the chance to have working group sessions together with youth delegates and experts and decision makers in the field of inclusion, in order to start putting up together some conclusions and to add up to whatever has been discussed in the previous working group sessions. And then in the afternoon, evening, we will have plenary conclusions that will be led by Ondras, and we'll put together everything that the Harvester team has collected during the working group sessions. And then again, we'll have some informal and cultural activities together in Alicante. And then the last day of the conference, we will have the DG session, where we will present again the conclusion and outcome of the working group session. And we will have dialogue session with the DGs in order to have youth delegates and DGs interacting together. And after that, we will have a closing session and departure of all the participants. So then I will explain a little bit more on the working group sessions. So basically, this is the main instrument of the conference, is the main structure that we will work around. We expect these working group sessions to be composed by 20-25 conference participants and led by one facilitator and one harvester from the 20 people team that we mentioned before. And these people will lead and document the discussions around the topics of the conference that is all about inclusion. These working group sessions will not be thematic. You will have some guiding questions for all the working groups, so you don't have to prepare a specific topic in advance. And the idea of these working group sessions is that you can reach out conclusions that then will be top up with the discussions with the experts in the field. And then you can engage together youth delegates and DGs on conversations around these conclusions that will be presented, as we have seen in the conference program. And the idea and the main outcome of all these working groups sessions is to feed conclusions of the conference and to just build up the consultation report of the 10th cycle that just started. And so that's why it's so important that you can go deep in the topics, discuss together with the facilitator of the team, and try to drive on conclusions after the sessions.
So just to briefly summarize how content-wise we want you to prepare for the conference. First of all, we really want to encourage you to read all the documents you have received. There is some crucial information on the overall framework of the current cycle, where you get more details and more insights on all the things we just mentioned in a pretty small time. So if you are unsure about the EU Youth Dialogue, about the current cycle, then please familiarize yourself with the two main documents you have received once you've registered. Also, just to stress again, we want you to take these guiding questions and to reflect upon them until the conference and to really discuss them in your national or organizational contexts. Because at the conference, you will not be representing your personal perspective on the topic, but you will actually bring in the perspectives of all the people from your country, from your organization, or whatsoever. So we just want you to at least use that opportunity of a couple of weeks until the conference to enable dialogue in your national contexts as well. We know that there are also some practical and organizational information and questions probably, and before we dive into those, Tamar will share a few words just to reply to the first question in the chat. The slides per se will not be circulated, but the recording of the meeting will be shared with you, and there you can find all the information again. And now I hand over to you, Tamar.
Sorry. Thank you, Clara and Koba, for this introduction, for this deep and intensive introduction. I would just like to mention that we're fully into this organizational communications which are developed by colleagues in the Institute, and we are using these two emails that you can see now in the slide. One refers much more to if you have any questions related to program or to activities or so, and the second one is specifically for practical issues related to hotel, travel, etc. Okay, that the email of Secretariat, it's I guess nowadays the most useful contact that you might have to finally, if you have to provide specific information about how you are getting to Alicante and how you're going back to your place. And I can also say that, as Clara was mentioning, we will share the recording because someone has already asked from the participants in the conference to have this information, but also more information will be uploaded in a web app that was actually posted, that was introduced in the email that you got with the provisional agenda and the practical information note. So you can access to this web app using a login and a password, which for all of you, the password, it's the same. It's the conference, if I don't remember, well, yeah, that you can accept there, and there you can find the password. Thank you, Clara. And the username should be your registration email. So there, nowadays, you can find the agenda that Koba has gone through, and we will have more information about the speakers, the experts that are coming to this session on the 3rd, and also more information about the informal activities, the places where to go, or other extra details that for sure will be provided during the conference. But the web app will be updated and uploaded with more info. And also, I guess that participants that have already taken part in a previous conference know that there are some social networks devoted to the EU Youth Conference. These social networks are transferred from one presidency to another. So nowadays, the Spanish presidency are dealing with them. You can find them here in this slide, and obviously in the web app you will also follow if we have like Twitter feeds, and we upload more information in the social networks. I think there's a question might be, or because I believe I'm not missing anything else, and yeah, should I answer the questions, Clara, or you might be
Yes, that would be
interested?
great.
Okay.
So maybe I just rephrase the two questions again for the people watching the recording. So from an organizational point of view, our youth delegates didn't receive any information regarding their flights yet. Could you please tell us whether they should send you an email or if it's correct planned and that they don't have to worry?
Yeah, they should write to this email I was saying about secretariat. I'm posting it in the chat, so then everybody will have it here. Okay. So for practical issues, you should contact this email and be sure that your email was correctly registered and that you're waiting for more information on your travel arrangements. But please be aware that it's kind of difficult to deal with most of your travel arrangements right now because most of the people were on holidays during July and August, so we couldn't move forward in the last weeks. So be patient, but for sure get in touch with this contact, with this email, please.
Also, there is the question, is there going to be a session dedicated to the improvement of the dialogue? The process is really one of a kind and would be beneficial to have time to find its challenges and brainstorm solutions over all 3 conferences. So in this specific conference, there will be no dedicated session around that topic, but of course, this is the first touch point, the first time you as delegates will meet, and we highly encourage you to already start discussions about the EU Youth Dialogue in general. The trio presidency, so Spain, Belgium, and Hungary have put a priority on the topic of improving the dialogue. So probably, I can't promise anything yet, but it has been in the discussions. In the following conferences, there will be dedicated spaces to discuss that. But also, since this is the first conference and we are first just getting started with a 1.5 year long process, we really want to start with the discussions on the thematic focus of the conference and then add a more process-oriented discussion during the cycle. I hope that answers your question. Are there more questions? Please either raise your hand or post them to the chat. They can be a logistical, organizational, content question, general knowledge questions about the EU Youth Dialogue, anything you would like to put forward. Okay. I can't see any more questions right now. I would propose that we as organizers, we stay in the room a couple more minutes just to give you the opportunities to discuss individual cases or to put forward your question. But for anybody who joined this meeting without a specific question, then thank you for being here for this preparation. We wish you best of success for the next weeks preparing for Alicante. We hope that the dialogue of the cycle already starts before the actual conference. So enjoy the discussions you will be having, and we very much look forward to meeting and seeing all of you in Alicante in a couple of weeks. Have a great evening. And again, anybody else who would like to discuss something, we will stay in the room. Are there more questions right now? Anything you would like to put forward or discuss?
Yes, I have a very quick question, and thank you so much for the session. Will there be an opportunity to ask more specific questions for experts interventions, or is this the space for it?
If you already do have specific questions, then please use that opportunity. Otherwise, you can always reach out to us as facilitators or Tamara as one of the organizers. But if you have a question right now, then start. But also, Tamara, I see you have a question as well, or want to respond something.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think Olin is expecting this webinar to be the webinar preparation for the experts joining this day, the 3rd of October. So Olin, you should get an email pretty soon. I think the email has been sent in Spanish actually, and I was about to send it to you in order to inform you about this webinar just devoted to you, to the experts. Thank you. I'm sorry for this misunderstanding.
No, that's perfect. This was very instructive as well. So I'm glad that I came and met people in the room, and look forward to that session as well. So I'll log off now. Thank you so much, though. And
Thank you very much.
See you soon.
Okay, I don't see any more questions right now popping up. So I propose that we conclude the session with everybody still being logged in. And I'm also going to stop the recording right now.